Ever wondered what actually happens after you book a shipment with a freight forwarder? In this video, I'll show you the entire freight forwarding process from collection of your goods right through to delivery to final destination. Step 1. You, the client, will need to contact the freight forwarder and provide them with all the essential information in order for them to provide you with an accurate estimate. What you'll need to send them will be from where, to where, the commodity, which is the cargo details, the gross weight, and the final package full dimensions. Your preferred method of shipping, air freight or sea freight. Generally speaking, with all the information provided to your freight forwarder, they should be able to determine what is the best mode of transport for you. However, if you do have specific needs and you're not too fazed by price, that price is no longer an issue. You are more concerned about getting your goods timeously, so you would like your goods urgently, then your freight forwarder will still get you the most cost effective price. However, they will only look at air freight because transit times then become less than sea freight. So if your goal is urgency, then they'll look at air freight. If you're not too phased how long it takes, then sea freight generally becomes the cheaper option depending on cargo information. Step 2. You receive a quote back from your freight estimator. Once you receive your quote, your estimate, and you are happy with pricing, you then contact your freight estimator and you confirm with them, please proceed. Once you've confirmed with them to please proceed, you then attach invoice, a packing list, and once you send those details to them, they will start the process and get the ball rolling. What happens after that, your freight forwarder will send them all their formal documentation for you to complete. You'll complete an export instruction of theirs. They will then send you an invoice to make final payment. And once you've made final payment and you've sent them the proof of payment, that's where step 3 will start. Step number 3, collection of goods. Your freight forwarder by this time should have your full collection address and also when preferred time and date is of collecting the goods from you, the shipper exporter. The freight forwarder will now facilitate the collection of your goods from your premises and deliver it either to airport or port terminal. Okay guys, step number 4. Documentation. I would say this ties in with step number 2. From my experience, I would prefer to request that documentation once the client decides to proceed. The client says to us, please proceed with this. I will then ask the client to attach the commercial invoice and the packing list. And then the only other documentation that goes with that will then be the airway bill if it's air freight or the seaway bill if it's sea freight. As well as the customs documentation. But the customs documentation and the airway bill is what the freight forwarder prepares. The commercial invoice and the packing list is what the client, the shipper, must provide the freight forwarder once they say proceed. Okay, so the client provides the commercial invoice and the packing list when they send the freight forwarder the email to say please proceed, and then the freight forwarder, when they facilitate their process, which ties in with step number 4, will then be to prepare the airway bill and the customs documentation. Okay, and that they can only do once they receive the export instruction back from the client. Okay guys, so the cargo has now been collected. The cargo has now been delivered to the depot or to the port. The documentation from the client yourself has been provided to your freight forwarder. Now comes step number 5, customs clearance. And just to quickly, briefly explain, customs clearance can be done for export and for import. You need to customs clear the goods out the country, so out of South Africa, and you need to customs clear the goods if they're coming into South Africa. So customs clearance can be done for export and for import. Okay, in this instance, we're talking about export, so customs clearance needs to be done. And how this is done by the freight forwarder, a freight forwarder is connected to all the government bodies of their country. So, for example, in South Africa's instance, we connected to SARS. We have systems where we capture information connected to SARS. So you provide the commercial invoice and all your documentation, and from that documentation we capture the information into our system, which is called framing and entry. Okay, so we basically put all your information in, and information required by SARS, and we capture the information. So that's why the information needs to be correct. Okay, and values need to be correct, and the terms, etc. So we'll capture the information, we'll frame it, and then as the steps go on, at the end there'll be an option where we can select submit customs entry. It gets submitted to SARS, and then we obviously wait for them to approve the customs release. Everything's in order, the cargo has been declared correctly via the correct HS codes, the goods are what we say it is, and then once they customs cleared, they'll send us a EDI of approval, so basically a customs entry that says approved, cargo has been submitted and approved. Then we have hard documents, which is a customs EDI, SAD 500, and a customs worksheet, and that is basically the customs documents. Once we have that, we now customs cleared it out of South Africa. Step number 6. Okay, and what step number 6 is international transport. So now we've given the documents, we received the documents, we've done the customs clearance. Now there will be a ETD. ETD is an estimate time of departure. Okay, that's when the plane leaves or the ship starts sailing. Okay, so there'll be an ETD date, which is the departure date. And from there, that is step number 6, the international transport. So the transport will go now from Cape Town to whichever country destination. Okay, and then basically I'll put it like this: we sit back and we relax, but we're not really relaxing. We're tracking, we're keeping our clients informed of where their cargo is, because sometimes it may not be a direct flight or direct sailing. It may be transshipped, or it might lay over by a hub airport. So we're always tracking, and we're always giving clients tracking updates. And then from there, we just track until it gets to final destination, which then leaves me to step number 7. Step number 7 is basically the cargo reaches final destination. So it reaches the airport or the port. Okay, and then the consignee or the consignee's clearing and forwarding agent, like us. So the consignee is the importer in the destination country. Their clearing and forwarding agent notifies them, or they get notified by us that the cargo has now arrived, and we just do the handover. So we obviously send them the final customs docs, the airway bill, the seaway bill, the final customs docs, the commercial invoice, so that they can clear the cargo in their country and deliver it to the buyer or to the importer. So that is the end of step number 7. Okay, guys, so we've now handed the documents over to the consignee's clearing and forwarding agent, or we've just notified them. For us, the shipment is complete. We can now file it and say delivered. It depends on the Incoterms, but if we're just delivering to port or airport, that is our process complete. The clearing and forwarding agent or the client at destination takes over. The client either nominates their own clearing and forwarding agent, and then they just handle it from there. We are now complete with our process. The consignee or the clearing and forwarding agent would have received all the documentation so that they can initiate customs clearance on their end. And then basically, in a nutshell, that's how freight forwarding works. Again, we like to iterate that we want to keep it as simplistic and basic as possible for you. So within all those steps, there is some parts that have been missed out, but that is the basic steps of how freight forwarding works and the moving parts within um, within freight forwarding and what freight forwarding is. Okay, so I know that all these steps, and it may seem complicating and complex, but just know your freight forwarder and your clearing and forwarding agent, they manage the entire process, so that you don't have to deal with any of this. Okay, you literally just forward them the commercial invoice and the packing list, and you make payment and you send their export instruction, and they handle everything for you. Okay, we haven't even gotten into commodity documents and so on, but we're not going to go there today. Today, we're just wanting to show you the steps and how everything works. Again, your freight forwarder will handle the entire process, the customs paperwork, the shipping, the logistics, so you have nothing to worry about. And then the more and more you do shipments, the more and more you'll learn. It becomes easier. Therefore, you can work with your freight forwarder. Also, we encourage leaving a comment. Ask us any questions in the comment. We'll try and reply to everybody, and we'll try and get back to you with an answer. If you have any questions regarding or related to freight forwarding, customs clearance, importing or exporting, we will be able to assist you. But yeah, only legitimate questions and legitimate queries we do attend to. Anything else, any waste, we tend to not entertain. Okay, so we welcome the comments. We'll try and respond to everybody. We'll also leave our contact details in the description as always. Until next time, guys, if you would like more simple videos explaining international freight forwarding, shipping, importing, exporting, customs clearance, subscribe, like the video, so you don't miss the next one and you stay informed. Okay, thank you guys.